Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting to order. I would like to ask all the board members to identify themselves for the record as I call your name. Todd Ferrante, present. Katie Annis.
Present.
Dr. Andes.
Present.
William Gordy.
Present.
Elena McComas.
Present.
Donald Smack.
Present.
Let the record show we do have a quorum. Mr. Buchanan is absent today. I need a motion to approve today's board agenda meeting and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. McComas.
Second.
A second by Mr. Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now I would like a motion to enter into closed session under general provisions of Article 3-305B of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the following reasons. To approve the closed session minutes from the previous month, Section 3-305B1, to discuss appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials of whom it has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matters that affects one or more specific individuals. May I have a motion to enter into closed session?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Smack. May I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now in closed session. Good afternoon, everyone. As we reconvene this Board of Education meeting, I want to remind everyone that we do have a quorum, and Mr. Buchanan is absent today. A closed session meeting was held today pursuant to General Article 3-305B of the Annotated Code of Maryland to approve previous closed session minutes, to discuss personal matters, and to seek legal advice. Today, joining us, would you please join us in the prayer as well as stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pastor Jermaine Scott from the New Macedonia Baptist Church in Pocomoke is here for us today. Pastor Scott, thank you for being here.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Eternal and all-wise God, we come to you today as we seek your guidance. Lord, we're asking you to be in the midst. Lord, we're asking you, oh Father God, to lead us through all of our decisions, oh God, because we want to do your will. And Lord, we're asking you to just come into this midst, God. Lord, we are asking you, oh Father God, to have your way, God. God, we asking, oh God, for emotions to be taken out of it, oh Father God, and for you, oh Father God, to come in the midst and lead us, oh Father God. Lord, we're thankful, oh Father God, that you selected us, oh Father God, to lead this group, oh Father God, to be able to help these children, oh Father God, to do what is best, oh Father God, for this area. And so, God, we're just going to continue to lean on you, continue to trust in you, and continue to have faith, oh God, that you are going to help us make what is the best decision, oh Father God, moving forward and do what you've called us to do. And we'll be so careful to give your name all glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' mighty name we say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Scott, thank you for that wonderful prayer. We do appreciate you being here today. So can I have a motion to approve the open session board minutes from August 15th, 2023?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Smack.
Second.
A second by Ms. McComas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Taylor for the superintendent's report. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Ferrante. Last month, I was excited to tell you about the ways we would be welcoming students and staff back to school, and I'd like to give our public a brief overview of the incredible success we've had thus far. While we unfortunately were not able to hold our annual welcome back kickoff for our staff, we tried to find creative ways to connect both with our staff and our families in advance of the first day of school. When staff arrived on August the 28th, prior to the kids, I released a video to them with my message for the year, one that I hope they found inspirational. Within that message, I challenged everyone to take a moment each day to focus on either a success, large or small, that happened that day, or a moment of gratitude to share as part of our 180 days of joy. The leadership team and I also joined our Teacher of the Year automotive sponsor to surprise Dr. Jamie Ridgely with a brand new Jeep that she will have to use for the school year. And we thank our sponsor there. Speaking of Dr. Ridgely, we also received news last week that she is one of only 7 finalists for the Maryland Teacher of the Year program. This exciting news was followed up with another announcement as well. Our WCES PA president, who is with us today, Ivory Smith, was chosen as MSEA's Educational Support Professional of the Year. Congratulations, Ivory. So our staff's return has certainly been eventful in the best of ways. The start of the school year for students was also a very huge success. I want to thank all of you who joined me, our board, on our first day annual tour. I'm certain you observed, as I did, that so many of our schools experienced smooth starts that allowed for routine and expectation setting, not to mention learning to begin nearly immediately. In fact, one of our board members said to me at our last visit, "It's like the 30th day of school." So we thank you for that. As we continue on this path of success, we know that we are making great progress. As we announced just a couple weeks ago, Worcester County's performance on the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, or as we know it, MCAP, was outstanding this year. I don't want to steal too much of Dr. Hamill's thunder today, as he is presenting on exactly this topic later in our meeting, but I do want to express my thanks to our students and our teachers and our staff for helping to make our schools the envy of the state in many cases, and even the nation, as our data shows that we are one of the leaders in the state of Maryland for sure, and even across this country. With that, I want to also, when I say staff, I think of Ivory Smith and our custodial staff, our secretaries, our EAs, the list goes on and on. It takes all of them to make our schools successful as they are. So again, I thank everyone. And with that, Mr. Fronte, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Appreciate that. I'd like to welcome our 2023-2024 student representatives who are joining us today to provide their monthly updates from their high schools. And I believe this month we're starting with Delia from Stephen Decatur High School. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrante. Days may be getting shorter, but the list of activities and events is getting longer at Stephen Decatur High School. The accolades for our school are no exception. First, our Surf Rider Club has earned Honor Rose recognition from the Baltimore Ravens for outstanding community service, and SCHS Goes Green initiatives, and 50 students and staff members will be brought down to the field this coming Sunday to be recognized for their service. Secondly, 58 students earned advanced placement honors from the College Board, 18 more than last year. And we had an awesome celebration of our new community-funded school board at Lewis H. Taylor Stadium last Friday, which we could not have accomplished without the support of our local businesses and organizations and anchor sponsors. Meanwhile, we are kicking off the year by celebrating kindness, empathy, and inclusion with Say Hello Week this week. Each day has a different theme, and we are excited to share messages of kindness this week and throughout the year. To go along with the week, we are hosting an activity fair during lunch shifts with the goal of getting every student to participate in an extracurricular program. Also during the month of September, we are holding elections for class officers, and our 15 sports teams have been cruising through their seasons in spectacular fashion. Our clubs and extracurricular programs are also off and running, with the NJROTC program presenting the colors during our Friday Night Lights events. Our Key Club and Fellowship of Christian Athletes began their list of activities. Our National English Honor Society will host its induction ceremony tomorrow, and our National Honor Society members have been busy serving as hosts and greeters for various school functions, including our annual SCHS Freshman Seahawk Day, Back to School Night, and volunteering with Go Green OC for recycling in Ocean City. Looking ahead to the coming weeks, we are excited to begin the fall session of the After School Academy, which will feature both tutorial and enrichment programs as well as additional service programs. Our homecoming week begins October 9th, and preparations are already being made for this exciting week. Other events that are on the horizon for us include the Rho Kappa Honor Society induction ceremony on October 5th, and the Presidential Service Award ceremony on October 11th. Meanwhile, our PBIS team is busy establishing fun, positive school climate activities. Our instructional days have been meaningful and exciting, and both our students and teachers have fully embraced the Seahawk spirit. Again, from all of us at Stephen Decatur High School, thank you for making our school system so great, and best wishes to everyone for a safe, productive, and happy school year. Now I will be reading the Worcester Tech Board Notes. Last week, our culinary class held a back-to-school information night that included dinner. Needless to say, it was well attended. Our first parent conference night of the year will be on Thursday, September 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. Parents can come to the school live and meet with their teachers, or there will be a Zoom option to conference. We have found that the Zoom idea works really well for our school and parents who are scattered throughout the county. We have begun to practice the many different safety drills that are required, from lockdowns to shelter in place to evacuations both in school and on buses. We feel like our student body will be ready to react in any emergency. Our Skills USA advisors are beginning to register students for membership in the club. Membership is required to compete in all the local, state, and national competitions. Our faculty, PBIS, and school improvement teams met during the summer to map out the events of the year ahead. Both groups are working extremely hard to have plans that are beneficial for student success at Worcester Tech. Now on to Catalina from Snow Hill.
Thank you, Dalia. We've had a fantastic start to the school year at Snow Hill High School. Our Big Bash event on August 30th saw outstanding participation. Last Friday night, we proudly hosted our very first home football game of the school year, and it was accompanied by a Memorial Stadium dedication ceremony. It brings us immense joy to announce that our field and stadium will now bear the proud name of Mo Barber Field at Kelly Shoemate Stadium. We had an amazing crowd turn out, and the Eagles beat Nandua 26-23. We were thrilled to have nearly 1,000 attendees, including alumni who journeyed from as far as Florida to be a part of last Friday night ceremony and game. We want to express our heartfelt gratitude to our dedicated athletic boosters and supportive community members like Jill Elliott and Tony Devereaux for their tremendous efforts in promoting and collecting over $16,000 in donations to cover the cost associated with naming our stadium and field. In addition, SHHS After School Academy is gearing up to start on Monday, September 25th. There are some amazing offerings being held, such as tutoring in all subjects, Dungeons & Dragons, driver's education, and STEM. This program is funded by the Academy 100 and 21st Century grants. It's been an exciting and busy start to the school year for the counseling department. Schedules have been finalized and college and career planning is underway. A UMES representative visited on September 14th to recruit for their open house, which will take place on October 6th. The Freshman Focused Mentoring Program held its very first meeting on September 14th as well. 37 mentors met with their freshman mentees to begin the semester-long process of building relationships and offering academic support. In future news, our SGA is preparing for our homecoming. The week of September 25th to September 30th will be filled with activities to foster student and community engagement and an uplifting school environment. Now to Treston from Pocomoke.
Thank you, Catalina. Pocomoke High School had a vibrant month of celebrations, beginning with a nostalgic tour hosted for the class of 1988. Several students were awarded from the College Board, including Christopher Villarreal, Teresa Gu, and Treston Melvin, showcasing our commitment to academic excellence. Students enjoyed National Arts and Education Week with various creative and academic expressionism. Thanks to the efforts of Mr. Collins, all students are able to enjoy free lunches, ensuring their well-being. Our community has come together and began the One School, One Book initiative, promoting a love for reading. Senior and Freshman Warrior Day welcomed 2 classes of students to the campus to prepare them for an eventful year. On the sports front, our fall teams have begun triumphing in field hockey, soccer, and volleyball, with outstanding performances in cross-country and golf. JROTC proudly secured Naval Honor School status for the 3rd consecutive year. Recently, we were fortunate enough to have local HBCU UMES host a Day in the Life program for the students of Pocomoke High. On the same day, NASA representatives visited PHS to dispense information about their summer internship opportunity. Both events allowed students to explore various future opportunities. Lastly, a dazzling fashion show was put on by PHS alum Alyssa Banks. Our school is buzzing with exciting upcoming events and opportunities. Our musicians will soon explore life as a music major at Salisbury University. We also have upcoming trips to Morgan State University and the University of Maryland College Park. Don't miss the dedication of the Robert W. Batson and Jack W. Burton Performing Arts Hall on September 28th at 5:30 p.m. We are also eagerly anticipating a JROTC bowling fundraiser at Eastern Shore Lanes on Saturday, September 30th at 1:30 p.m. Homecoming games are on October 13th, followed by a dance on the 14th. Pocomoke is also gearing up to celebrate Principal Appreciation Month and Custodian Day during the month of October. Our after-school academy will offer diverse activities from Latin art expression to 3D printing, as well as academic support through tutoring. It's an exciting time to be a part of our community. I would like to encourage everyone to spread inclusivity and tell their stories. Make sure you are the one to make someone else's day a better one. We as Pocomoke School Communities would like to thank the Board of Education and executive team for their continued support of students. Thank you. Now back to Mr. Ferrante.
Delia, Catalina, and Trustin, thank you for those very informative reports. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to bring us the news from your high schools. So thank you again. It's now time to recognize the audience members joining us today from the following organizations. Do we have anyone present, and I know we do, from the WCTA? Good afternoon, Beth. WCESPA? There he is. Good afternoon, Ivory. The Worcester County Retired School Personnel. Good afternoon, Helen. And representatives from various schools, SIACs, PTAs. Anyone here? Thank you so much for being here today. Now it's time for community recognition, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. App to introduce our guests today, our award winners.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrante. It's my pleasure to invite and introduce Teresa Dudley from the Maryland State Education Association. She's the vice president. I'd like to invite her to the floor, and she's going to make a special presentation.
It kind of feels like the Spanish Inquisition here. So I'm going to take a breath. I just drove from Annapolis, but I would be remiss if I did not come out today to talk about somebody who's very special that you have here. Mr. Ferrante, Ferrante or Ferrante? Ferrante, thank you. Names are important. I like to honor people. And the board for allowing me to come before you today. My name is Teresa Dudley. I'm the vice president MSEA, but I started out as an educational support professional. Matter of fact, I was a substitute teacher. And then I became Miss Dudley, the computer lab lady. Then I taught first grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh and eighth grade social studies and science. So I've been around the block a little bit, and I know good people. And when we talk about the role that our ESPs play, I do think of Ivory. And he is our MSEA ESP of the Year. My job as vice president is to represent the 75,000 educators across the state, certified staff, and our ESPs. I'm here today proud to celebrate that Ivory Smith, custodian at Ocean City Elementary School, is MSEA's Education Support Professional of the Year. This annual award is presented to a member of MSEA who demonstrates outstanding accomplishments and reflects the contributions of ESPs to public education and their community. MSEA receives nominations from across the state for the annual award, which is part of MSEA's broader work to elevate respect and appreciation of ESPs. And I might say that Ivory has been very key on our ESP Bill of Rights movement and represented your county on that committee. ESPs are often the unsung heroes in our schools. My grandmother was a matron at my junior high school, so I know a little bit about this. They're responsible for making sure students, teachers have the conditions necessary to work and to learn. They clean and sanitize schools, drive buses, prepare meals, keep technology working, manage front offices, and care for our kids' mental and physical health and more. Our students, and Beth Shockley Lynch will tell you that her educators couldn't manage without ESPs like Ivory Smith. In his school, Ivory's principal, Julie Smith, nominated him for the award, saying he goes above and beyond his duties and his proactive approach to identifying and addressing potential maintenance issues has played a pivotal role in ensuring a well-functioning, pleasant, and safe learning environment for everyone. He demonstrates leadership in work with peers and in community activities, and he has outstanding interpersonal skills that earn him respect everywhere, locally, statewide, and nationally. His colleagues, he works well with his and collaborates with his colleagues to create a positive, cooperative environment in the school. Not only does Ivory take care of his school, he's out in the community and his profession making an impact. He's president of his local union, as was mentioned, the Worcester County Education Support Professionals. But he's also a member of the MSEA board, where he was recently elected to be a regional director representing the whole southern eastern shore, which is big. He's also been recently elected to the NEA Board of Directors as an ESP member at large. He's a member of the National Council of Educational Support Professional, and he should get a tattoo that says service. He's secretary of the Pittsfield Economic Development Committee and the president of the local NAACP. He's coached basketball for the last 20 years. He's the 2018 Maryland State Conference NAACP Dream Team honoree, and was nominated as a local black leader by WMDT 47. Recognized by Omega Psi Phi Fraternity as a 2019 Citizen of the Year. You can tell Ivy represents the finest values of our ESP colleagues. Thank you for joining MSEA in celebrating and recognizing him for the contribution he makes to our kids and the community. We're thrilled to celebrate him and all the work of ESPs with this well-deserved award. Please join me in celebrating Ivory Smith.
So I could have everybody look here really quickly on three. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm gonna get out of the way and hold tight.
I'll take one then.
Come on, Beth. We're all in this together.
I just want to thank Mr. Smack because he was like the mentor of me for the union. So I just want to thank you.
Okay. We move forward. We have delegation comments and individual comments, and all individuals who have signed up to address the Worcester County Board of Education. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
National School Lunch.
We have a proclamation to read. I apologize, and I'm going to ask Mr. Gordy to read the National School Lunch Week. Mr. Gordy.
National School Lunch Week. Whereas the National School Lunch Program plays an important role in helping to ensure that every child in the nation is ready to learn, because a hungry or undernourished child is less likely to be an eager or attentive student. And whereas the National School Lunch Program has a demonstrated commitment to our children's health and well-being, serving nutritious meals that are balanced for vitamins and calories, which supports healthy eating patterns. And whereas in Worcester County, all 14 public schools participate in the National School Lunch Program, directly supporting student success. And whereas the success of this effort is due largely to resourceful and creative local food service administrators, managers, and staff working in cooperation with parents, teachers, community groups, government personnel, and students. Therefore, be it resolved that October 9 through 13, 2023 be proclaimed as National School Lunch Week, a time to celebrate the importance of a program that helps keep children nourished so they can learn. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be made as part of the minutes of the board meeting adopted this 19th day of September 2023, signed by the board president, Mr. Ferrante, and our superintendent, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Collins, would you please come forward?
I will say that this gentleman is one of the most quiet leaders we have. I don't hear a lot from him, and had one of the most difficult tasks during our pandemic. And the number of meals and the food banks and food distribution spots all over Worcester County, it was sometimes 24 hours a day. He had to make sure that was going on. Never heard a word of concern from him. He just did a wonderful job, and we're grateful to have Otis here as part of our school system. So Otis, thank you, congratulations.
On three. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Otis. Thank you.
Okay, now we're at individual comments, and all individuals who sign up to address the Worcester County Board of Education may do so for 1 or 2 minutes regarding information, commendations, or concerns which may need future board attention. Concerns that are specific to an individual not be discussed in open session and should be directed to appropriate district personnel for investigation. When you're called, please address the board and please state your name and address for the record, and please speak into the mic so our live stream can hear it. First up is Stephanie Price Harris.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Price Harris, and you want my address?
Yeah, that's fine. You can just tell us where you live.
Okay, West Ocean City. My name is Stephanie Price Harris, and I'm an optometrist and owner of OC Eye Care in West Ocean City. I'm a proud 1994 graduate of Stephen Decatur High School and mom of Cameron Harris, a 2023 graduate of Stephen Decatur. I was asked to speak today about his experience at Worcester Technical High School. Cameron started at Worcester Tech in 9th grade, where he attended Mr. Michael Levy's Homeland Security class. During that class, he became certified in many areas in the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Yes, at 14 years old, he became FEMA certified through his class at Worcester Tech. This eventually led to Cam in his junior year to apply for FEMA's National Youth Leadership Council, where he was awarded a national semifinalist. From there, he entered Mr. Levy's criminal justice program. This program truly exposed Cam to every aspect of the criminal justice system through numerous field trips, speakers, and the use of the crime lab right there at Worcester Tech. They visited the National Law Enforcement Museum, the Maryland Medical Examiner's Office, the Maryland Anatomy Gifts Registry Office, and the Pennsylvania State Penitentiary. His senior year, Cam went on to intern with the Worcester County Sheriff's Office, and it was an experience he will never forget. Together, all of these amazing events made possible by the Worcester Technical High School and the Worcester County Board of Education helped Cam to decide to pursue a degree in criminology in college. Cam excelled both at Worcester Tech and at Stephen Decatur High School. He played football and was a basketball manager for all 4 years. He received the President's Volunteer Service Award all 4 years as well for volunteering over 400 hours of service back to our community. What is so special about our Worcester County school system is that you can truly do it all: play sports, volunteer, and attend Worcester Technical High School, and for that I am thankful. Cam is now a freshman at Penn State University in State College, Pennsylvania, pursuing a
Go ahead.
Pursuing a degree in criminology to hopefully obtain a job in the Department of Defense. The fire to pursue this degree and career field was lit here right at Worcester Tech, and I will always be grateful. Most students are figuring out their career path in their second or third year of college, where due to his experiences here at Worcester Tech, he knew even before he applied. We are extremely fortunate to have a building like Worcester Tech that allows students to explore programs and careers that they would never be able to in traditional high school setting. Thank you, board members, for all you are doing to allow our students to succeed in life. I cannot leave here without saying that I probably would not be where I am today without my educational experience here in Worcester County. It led with a foundation to continue to attend college, then optometry school, and for that I am filled with gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for all your love and support you've put into every single student in Worcester County. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is Helen Schauschel. Good afternoon, Helen.
Good afternoon. Close enough?
Yes, you've got it.
All right. My name is Helen Schauschel. I'm president of Worcester County Retired School Personnel. I live in Salisbury, Maryland, but I spent 40 years of my life driving down Snow Hill Road to Snow Hill High School, so I feel it's home. Worcester County Retired School Personnel represents teachers and support personnel who retired from the school system. We have a connection with the teachers and we have a connection with the support personnel. Wanted to let you know some of the things we do to help because we think public education is the cornerstone of American society and we need to help keep it going. For teachers, we have represented, or not represented, have supported the Teacher of the Year program since its inception. And we are so proud of Jamie Ridgway's appointment as the Teacher of the Year for Worcester and her representing us in the state contest, and we wish her well. For teachers, this year they had 50 new teachers that joined the school system. Now, why are we interested in new teachers if we're retired? Because we know what they go through and the problems they have, and so we presented the 50 teachers bags of support material like pencils and pens and markers and magic markers and erasers and things that they need for their classroom that oftentimes they don't get, and with the budget being cut this year, we thought that would be helpful. We are also offering teachers a $300 mini grant for projects in their classroom that they can apply to this year. We also offer free $1,000 scholarships to students who we hope will then go into the teaching profession. Support personnel are a big part of our organization, and we recognize them as well. We're so happy for Iris Smith's recognition this year. That was very good, and we're happy with him, or for him, about that. We recognize the support personnel with certificates and gifts and support, and hope that they too can continue helping with the educational support system. Just a few things that the Worcester County Retired School Personnel do and hope to continue to do to support public education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate it. Next up is Rashid Collier. Rashida, I should say.
Rashida, thank
Rashida.
you. Names are important.
They are.
First of all, I'm nervous, so let me just take a deep breath. Okay. So my name is Rashida Collier. I'm a parent of Kedrick Collier and King Roberts. They both attend Pocomoke Middle School and Pocomoke High School. I told you I was nervous. But today I wanted, for the record, I live in Pocomoke. Okay. I wanted to bring to the board's attention what Pocomoke High has done for my son specifically. So I know I have 2 minutes and I'm gonna try to make it fast. You know I talk a lot. So the importance of learning and loving our children is not easy. As a single parent mother, if you would have told me 16 years ago I needed a village, I might would have laughed, but that's exactly what Pocomoke as a community has done, even when you don't want them to. When Kedrick first entered Pocomoke High, he had his reservations and he was nervous and he was hesitant because he just did not want to fail. He wanted to get good grades and, in his words, maybe play basketball. But instead, Pocomoke High has challenged him to the occasion on more than one time. From the track field to running cross country, he has excelled. He is the light of any dance party, from expressing himself in theater production and allowing him to truly be himself. Kedrick has done and continues to voice his skills and make tremendous impact, not only on myself as his parent, but as his peers, from his peers. Kedrick is a fierce to be reckoned with warrior. As his confidence boosts, so is his grades. He remains having A's and B's as he always did, and he is the only child in the county of Worcester County to be a 2-time recipient of the Coin Challenge from Dr. Lou Taylor. Yes. Kedrick has shown leadership, growth, compassion, and love. And as a mother, my job is to provide and give him the tools of life, and that the people of Pocomoke High School has done just that. I know I'm coming. From the teachers that love him and teach him to the metacognition of every teacher to help him learn in a better way. From Jennifer Rain, Jody Stigler, and Kristen Cashman, I couldn't and wouldn't ask for a better school and a better village. I thank every single one of the staff and the board for having such a safe space for both of my children to thrive and continue to support them both in this crazy thing called life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Every single
Thank
one
you.
of you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up is Jermaine Scott. Okay, did Jermaine leave? Jermaine Scott. All right, then I'll have Eric Mitchell come up. How are you doing?
Hey, Eric.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, man. All summer, right? I know many of you guys. My name's Eric Mitchell. I'm from Berlin, and I've been asked to speak about my experiences here. You know, I went from Buckingham to Stephen Decatur High School. So this past June, I think it was 20 years since I graduated. So I've seen everything. So I started in Buckingham, but I spent 1 year at BIS, and I got to open the new middle school as it, was opened up. And I spent 4 years at Decatur while I was being remodeled. So my experiences was great. There's plenty of teachers that I still see around today that has been recognized and that are, I guess, important people in the community, whether they still hold a teacher title or not. I'm also a parent now, and I have 4 kids that do go Worcester County schools. My oldest is a freshman at Decatur this year, so it's interesting to see everything that's going on. He plays football, so it was interesting. This past Friday, got to see the scoreboard, the ribbon ceremony. So there's just so much exciting stuff to talk about. Like my kids going to school, like the teachers love them. They're excited to go there every day. They learn, and that's just not speaking. Like I can talk to my kids every day, and they can tell me what they've done, what they kind of go through every day in school, their experiences, meeting their friends, and just like, I guess my wife is not here. She's from here. She's from Virginia, and she wanted nothing to do with a small town or where we stay in Worcester County. But I think at this moment, she wouldn't have her kids in any other county, and I think that means a lot to me because she's never been a person for this area. She wanted to do more stuff and go different places, but she probably wear her Decatur gear now. Like I got my sweatshirt on. Yeah. So it's just awesome to see. I mean, like I love it. Like it's a lot going on, but like you guys take care of us. You take care of our kids. I mean, we not only see what you do here, but out in the community. So we're proud of you guys, and I just love it here.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, God.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. Next up is Frank Knox. Frank Knox.
Okay, you good?
Okay. Frank, I know you too, Frank. Don't run. Don't run away.
Next time.
Okay. Next up is Scott Taylor. Scott Taylor? No. Okay. Karen Bowden. All right. Ramona Gillespie.
Some of you were just signing in that you were here. Okay, keep going.
Colleen Rutzler. Okay.
See, some of them were just signing in that they're here.
Good afternoon.
My name is Colleen Rutzler. Actually live right here in Newark. I want to first say thank you for the opportunity to speak today about our experience at Snow Hill High School. My husband and I have two daughters that attend Snow Hill. We have our freshman and a junior. And the staff and administration of Snow Hill have supported our family more than once as our daughters entered high school after being in a private Catholic school for 11 years. So specifically helping them and navigating being in a non-faith-based larger environment. In fact, my junior, when she graduated MBS, she graduated with 9 other students to go into a school that has 86, I believe, in her class. So huge difference. Our family has had challenges with health, including my husband being in and out of the hospital over these past 5 years. Most recently, 79 days suffering from stage 5 renal failure. And my son-in-law, who passed away from cancer this past March. Several staff members of Snow Hill High School have been incredible, especially to my junior, as she is entering her 3rd year. Of course, Mrs. Threadgill, who is now here over at the tech school, Mrs. Patel, Mrs. Klein, doing everything from small gestures, being someone to talk to, someone to lift your spirits, someone who, even helps with transportation sometimes if I'm back and forth in the hospital. Our youngest daughter, Madeline, of course, just started 2.5 weeks ago. She does suffer from anxiety disorder. So recently, just can give you an example, she is on our volleyball team with JV, and I know she really looks up to Kat, and she suffered a panic attack, and those coaches swooped right in and couldn't have been more, helping her with her grounding techniques, and then reaching out to me and making sure that everything over the next few days and how they could help. Those 3 coaches, I of course I don't know them, and they have become, amazing people in a different sense to me, coming from Catholic school, not only for my children but for myself. I've never been in a public school situation, and I have to say, Worcester County, you're doing it right. It's amazing. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And our next speaker is Christina Huslander.
Good afternoon. I'm Christina Holslander, and I am from Snow Hill. My kids have gone through Snow Hill schools. I appreciate the time today, and I'll try and be quick. My involvement at the schools started with PTA and SIAC. I'm still involved at the schools through the Worcester County Garden Club. We do some weeding at the Snow Hill Elementary Garden, and you all know that one of our greatest assets in our schools is our people, and I thank you for always looking out to support our people and value them. They are the ones that are committed to our children in their learning, in their bodies, minds, spirits during school hours, and even beyond, as we hear. So we're grateful to everybody in the school system, and thank you for helping to show that value despite what the county commissioners have done. But I want to mention a group that I have great admiration for and can be so overlooked because they do their job so well, and that is the custodial staff. And I love that Ivory Smith was just honored. Snow Hill Elementary's custodial staff, I am amazed by them over the past 12 years that I've been in the county. Mr. Charles Townsend, Margaret Collins, and now our newest Ryan Suggs. These are some of the hardest working individuals I come across. I weed in the garden for about 2 hours, and the heat and humidity will knock me silly. I might be out of commission for a lot of the rest of the day. They're out there working inside, outside of the building, and there's this magical moment in time in August when summer school ends and before the school year starts, that the building is empty, and that means the custodial staff moves absolutely everything in the building. They move it all, they clean everything, they polish the floors, they paint the walls, they do whatever. And they do that before the teachers need to move back into the classrooms. And that's a lot of work. I can't even clean out my own shed by myself. And they've actually had to rearrange physically every room in the building as we bring in the pre-K 3s, the pre-K 4s, and figure out where to put the kids in the best part of the building. Our custodial staff is amazing, and they're not only committed to the students and staff in the building, they're committed to each other. So although they are deserving of time off, they don't take that time off because they know that leaves each other short-staffed. And they're taking care of everything, and that includes these young people who are learning about the laws of physics and gravity and making accidents and spills, and they have to go deal with that in the building when they interrupt whatever they're doing. I know that they have asked for support over the years, asked for additional staffing. I ask you to try and figure that out, even if it is to contract out their outside work. As the rain comes down and the grass grows, they've got to keep cutting the outside. Let's find a relief valve so that our wonderful, amazing custodial staff feels the support that I know you want them to feel. And thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our speakers today. Appreciate your input. Next, we'll move on to curriculum instruction. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Shorts for the Pocomoke Elementary School Summer Academy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ferrante. We do have Pocomoke Elementary School, and they are going to speak about the 71 students who attended their summer school program this year, and they have experienced some extra challenges the past 2 years, which I'll let them explain to you, and have done a wonderful job with our students during summer school. So we have Mr. Josh Hamborski, who is the principal of Pocomoke Elementary School, and new to Pocomoke Elementary School this year, Mr. Matt Hoffman, assistant principal.
Good afternoon. Talking to your mic.
Yeah, can
Josh.
you talk to the mic, Josh?
Mike. Sorry.
That's all right.
You can
You can stand up. You can stand up. Yeah, there you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, student representatives, Mr. Taylor and Mr. Ferrante. We're super excited to be here in front of you. Thank you for having us and giving us this opportunity. With me today, introduced, I have Mr. Hoffman. I just got to give a quick shout out and a thank you for the placement. He's been a great addition to our staff. He's done a great job hitting the ground running with the school year, and he started with our summer school, doing a fantastic job. So our goal today is to share with you some of the amazing things that are happening or happened at summer school, as well as reiterate its importance. I'm going to hand it over to him for a moment, and I'll just speak in just a second.
All right, thank you, Josh, and thank you, everybody. I've really loved being part of the Pocomoke Elementary team so far, and it's been a great year. But to sum up Pocomoke Elementary Summer School, to begin with, we weren't in the elementary building. We were actually over at Pocomoke High School, and I want to give a quick shout out to Pocomoke High School. I know we really had to work together as a team because they're trying to clean their building and get ready for the year. And he isn't here, but I want to give a shout out to Sam Slakem. He actually literally came down and helped move things. So him and his team were a great help. Thank you. All right, so we had 3 initiatives through summer school, and Mr. Hamborski and I worked together on these where, number 1, we wanted to build positive capital, not just with our students, but with families and community in Pocomoke. We did this through a variety of ways, like positive phone calls home, visiting homes, sharing on social media. We have some fun pictures here where we would do good phone calls home with our students. They loved that. That was Mr. Thompson, one of our new school liaison. They loved getting to sit in my chair and talk to their parents after I bragged about them a little bit. So the second initiative that we had was enriching the lives of our students. As many of you have heard these statistics already, 80% of our students in Pocomoke come from homes in poverty. So they're lacking a lot of the opportunities that students, their counterparts in Snow Hill and the north end of the county have. So we, Mr. Hamborski and I both love and care about these students very much, just like I know at middle school and high school. We want to do as much for them as we can. Many of them come from broken homes, they're homeless, have just a lot of roadblocks. So some of the things that we offered them was we had an author come in, give out free books. We went to the public library. The fire department was really fun. We went to the one-room schoolhouse. Dr. Brown was a huge part in helping with that. So that was the author, Miranda Middleton. She was great. We also connected with her on social media, so she continues to help. We had artists and residents come in. Thank you to Tamara Mills, with some really cute pictures with that too. That was at Pocomoke City Public Library. Their staff is fantastic. I can't wait for the new library to be built. I really hope that they can continue doing the great things they did for us this summer. And then we wrapped up the year with a trip to Maui Jacks. And I forgot to mention that the Judy Center was also a huge part in supporting us with a lot of these trips. I'll turn it over to Mr. Amborski.
I was looking for like the yellow and green cards. It's been that long since I've done these presentations. It used to be like they show you a card and it's like, you better hurry up and talk. So I can get talking pretty good, so I apologize. I'm going to be quick though. So the academic programs that we wanted to highlight here, first let me say that these are research-based programs and they were done with fidelity within our programs, or within our summer school academy. The first that I want to highlight is the Ready to Rise by Wilson. And a big shout out to my wife, who is our literacy coordinator in the district, because these programs support these students in such a fascinating way. It's absolutely incredible to see how much these students grow within these foundational programs. So this first program, the Ready to Rise program, it's 90 minutes a day. It has three main components: the word study, the transcription, and the application/fluency. So our students are very used to the routines and rituals associated with this, which allows us to bring it into summer school and run with it. So the next thing is the reading system. Wilson reading system, many of you know that this dates back very far. It's transitioned a little bit over the years, and it's a very powerful Tier 3 support for our students. So our students with the most learning challenges related to literacy, this gives them an opportunity to step it up and catch up and match up with their peers. So I bring this about because I want to staple down the importance for these programs. Our students come to school, and at Pocomoke Elementary School, in Worcester County Public Schools, you know we have the highest KRA scores in the state. Worcester County, within Worcester County, Pocomoke Elementary School has the lowest. So we have a lot of catching up to do throughout our years. This year, as you probably see in a few minutes from Dr. Hamill, we were the #2 scoring school on MCAP in literacy. That's a big deal. That's a lot of challenges that we overcome, and we're doing it. And these are some of the reasons why. The staff and the programs. We follow these programs with fidelity, we pour our hearts into our students, and so on. So our students come to school with that lack of Tier 2 vocabulary and literacy exposure, and these are the things that help get them where they need to be. These interventions that take place, both the Tier 2 and 3 interventions, are delivered through special ed service providers in summer school, and really, I'll be honest with you, everyone pulls in. Lastly, I just want a quick shout out to the other items, the research-based programs that we use, and that's iReady Bridges, 100 Book Challenge, as well as Writer's Workshop. So thank you. I'm going to turn the last slide over to Mr. Huffman.
So I did want to wrap up by saying we did make a collaborative effort to celebrate not just every Thursday, which was the last day of the week in summer school, but every day, and we're going to continue that energy through the school year. We continue to celebrate learning and being together with our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Hamborski or Mr. Hoffman?
I just want to say personally thank you for the difference that you're making in these young children's lives and the accomplishments that you've achieved. You know, that's substantial and it's recognized, and we appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate your presentation. Our second presentation is by Dr. Brian Cook, and he's going to tell you, you might have read in the newspaper lately that we received a very large grant called Stronger Connections, and we just thought we would take a deeper dive into this grant and let you know some of the things, some of the people we were able to get through this grant, and have Dr. Cook run through that with you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Cook.
All right, it is afternoon. I always
Yes,
tell
it
folks
is.
good morning throughout the day. So first and foremost, thank you very much, board, everybody here on the live stream. I just want to share with you a little bit how fortunate we have been to receive the Stronger Connections grant and give an overview of what it is, the amounts. The Stronger Connections award that we were awarded approximately $2.6 million, and that's over a 3-year period. The grant's designed to address the further impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic that relate to physical, social, and mental struggles suffered through students through the natural, process that what we call COVID. So I'm going to give you an overview, a little bit of what is going to come out of that, just to kind of make some folks aware. We had a little bit of funding opportunity, and I'll just go through a board-certified behavior analysis therapist. Early intervention at the earliest stage is crucial for some of these kiddos to be able to work through some of these challenges. We realize that's something as we continue to expand our pre-K 3 and 4 programs, that we need to continue to work with some of those students and mitigate some of these challenges behaviors early. So this is going to give us that opportunity to do that. We have also been able to look at our certified health education teacher. Data has shown us that we have a little bit more obesity. We have a little bit more challenges in our southern part. So one of the things that we came up with is to have a split position between Pocomoke Middle as well as Snow Hill Middle over the next 3 years. You're gonna hear me constantly come back a little bit to early childhood because we have our music and movement teacher. One of the things that's kind of unique about music and movement, you I guess you would say, put your music class and your physical education class together and kind of combine it. One of the things that's really important in the early part of our kindergarten readiness is a thing called our SKBs, which is our skill knowledge base benchmarks. So anyway, this is another way to kind of support those kids and to make sure that they're kind of up to par as they get ready to go into the kindergarten classroom. The other one that we're going to have is our 2 pupil personnel workers. Pupil personnel workers primarily serve as advocates for students and consultants around various issues from attendance and discipline and residency and so forth. And right now, being a large geographical county, it's a challenge to get what we have to around that. So one of the things that we're going to be able to do is lower our PPW to student ratio to allow us to reach a higher level of students for case management purposes throughout our school system. Another part of it is our social emotional play-based learning coach, which and it's going to be really, again, going kind of back to that blueprint pillar early childhood, where we're going to be focusing on our pre-K 3 and 4 classrooms, where they can continue to kind of work in a guided play scenario to continue to give them work side-by-side skills that they can be ready so they can comfortably come into our kindergarten classrooms. Another piece that we're going to have is our sensory integration. So sensory integration kind of refers to how the brain receives and organizes and processes the sensory systems, which can be hearing, touch, taste, smell, and I would say it's a lot more children are coming through the COVID pandemic having some of those challenges. So what we'll be able to do through our training program is have our occupational therapists get a 2-part training, and they'll be able to offer some of those service for our students. And the last piece is one that I'm really excited about is PBIS, because it has a touch of all 14 schools. So all students will have the opportunity to benefit from some of the programming enhancements that we'll be able to do with our PBIS programming. folks sometimes ask me, like, hey, how does that grant application process work? And I always tell folks we pull together various data points to develop a grant through a lot of our school improvements, our staff meetings, and I know one that's not on here is our Maryland Youth Tobacco Survey, our school improvement, our SIACs, and we kind of look at areas where we can have improvement through our school year, and we kind of pull those pieces with various stakeholder groups from administrators, teachers, sometimes central office personnel, and we kind of look at how we can benefit kids at the highest level. And we create different opportunities. We talk with our executive team to make sure there are some pieces in there that can really benefit kids, and we're really excited about that. One of the pieces that I love about the grant funding more than anything is it's going to hit 3 years. So it's multi-year. So if you want to think about it, we'll have this funding through our 23-24, 24-25, and our 25-26 school year. And also it's going to enhance our programming for all schools. So every school is going to be touched by this. So that's an exciting component to a grant because we want to be able to see the long-term impact on our kids. Some of the things that I'll be looking forward more on my side, we'll continue to monitor it how we normally would with our local and state guidelines. We'll look at dialogue. I will say this candidly, I'm not the expert on all these areas, so I'll be working with the central office coordinators who have that skill set and the monitoring to make sure that we're meeting the needs and we're meeting our goals as we go through. For post-grant purposes, we'll continue to monitor our goals and prioritize and to see how we're going to move forward after the 3-year grant runs out. So that's a hard overview. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Well, you did a thorough job, Dr. Cook. I'll say that. But you know, this has a huge impact on Worcester County Public Schools. Really does. Any of my board members have any questions for Dr. Cook?
Are the employees that are being hired, are they full-time employees or are they contractual, or how does that work with the grant guidelines?
So some of our employees, they will be on for the period of the grant. We have contracted services that are outside agencies. We also have some full-time employees that will be in there through the course of the grant.
Okay. And is this something that you're going to try to renew after the 3 years? Is there
Absolutely.
more in the timeline?
We'll be working on it the next 3 years as we collect the data so we can utilize it for future grant applications for sustainability.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give you just to provide a little bit of clarity, those folks were all hired contractually, even if they're full-time.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yes.
they're very aware that after the 3 years, they may have to be absorbed into another position if nothing is funded.
Really?
I just want to thank Dr. Cook. He's a very well-versed but very humble man. He's done a wonderful job in our grants department. This is his second full year taking over our grants department, and I probably should have done my homework and had like a number as to how many grants we have pulled in. But Brian came to Annette and I early on in this grant and said, you know, I wrote for about $1 million. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get $1 million. And when he submitted it, it was so well done that the guy that he became friends with at the grant department said, listen, a lot of people are not applying for this. Please chase harder. So we went back to the board and rewrote that, and we just want to thank Dr. Cook and his very small support group in the grants department, and thank you for chasing these grants.
Thank you again. I want to recognize Dr. Andes. He wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Andes.
No. I just wanted to thank Dr. Cook and the entire team. It is extremely challenging to put together a grant application and have it succeed. Extremely challenging. We've all been there. We've all done it. And I just want to commend Dr. Cook and the team, whoever they are, who he brought together to put together this grant application. And I think I added it up, and it's over $4 million that Dr. Cook, through his team and his efforts, and there's perseverance, because it takes a lot of perseverance to get a grant through the entire process and adhere to all the qualifications of the grant to get it done. So I might be wrong, but I think it's more like 2.6 and 600,000 and some other money. I think it's around 4 million. So I thank you, Dr. Cook, for your commitment, your talent, your tenacity in getting the job done. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes. And
I also want to say, as a side, Dr. Andes, if any of you want to get your steps in a day's time, come follow Dr. Cook. He passes me in the hall about 20 miles an hour faster than I walk, and I think I walk pretty fast about a dozen times a day. He is moving, talking to staff, and I can say that about a lot of people, but this guy goes from start to finish. And Brian, I appreciate your work ethic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? Thank you, Dr. Cook. Ms. Shorts, anything else? Okay. Yeah. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wallace for the MCAP results.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm going to ask Dr. Tom Hamill to join Ms. Shorts and myself at the table, and we have MCAP results presentation for you.
Okay, well, I'm going to need to pull that closer. Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
As I'm sure you have seen in the paper and are aware, we did very, very well on MCAP. And so I don't know that you'll see too many surprises here, but I do want to extend the opportunity to ask me follow-up questions, so I've gone a little shorter on the presentation to allow that opportunity. So just real quick basics, MCAP is offered in math and ELA for high school students in the spring for all levels. The students are going to receive a scale score and a performance level score. The scaled score runs from 650 to 850, with the 750 being considered passing. Performance levels are on a 4-point scale, with a 3 and 4 constituting a passing score. And this year, about 4,000 of our students this past year took part in these assessments. This is also only the second year with this version of MCAP, and it does get a little confusing in that we've had PARC, we've had MCAP, and we've had MCAP, right? Because after PARC got done, we had what was called the MCAP, which was still on the 5-point scale, which had its own thing. And then, COVID, we were supposed to field test this new version of the MCAP during COVID, and then COVID happened and things got delayed. So we've only had it for 2 years, and it's a different test, particularly in the math realm, where it utilizes computer adaptive technology. So essentially, the students, as they are answering questions, if they get a question right, the next question they get is a little harder. If they get a question wrong, the next question they get is a little bit easier, and the score is calculated based upon that. So it's a very different kind of test taking for our students as well. So I have put up here the us versus the state proficiency levels in ELA. So this is how we compared to the state average. And you can see plus 26, plus 22, plus 16, lots and lots of good news to be had there. To the point where, as a person who likes statistics, if I saw this data, and I did see this data, I would consider why is there an outlier here? Because this is outlier kind of data. I've looked at it, the state's looked at it, it's solid. It's just because we're doing that well compared to the state. I also wanted to give you an idea for how each of our different levels ranked. And so you can see I put our rank and then the top performing LEA if it wasn't us, and it was only not us for 2 of the areas in ELA, and that was ELA 7 and ELA 10. But we were second in both of those, and you can see that the margin, particularly in ELA 7, was only 0.8%. So there's no other district, no other LEA in the state of Maryland that is consistently scoring as high as we are, and scoring at the top of the rank. You'll have Carroll County bump into the first for one of their grade levels. Calvert, Hartford will sometimes bump up, but we generally own the most spots there at the top of the rankings. So math, and again, really, really strong performance, particularly in our 3rd and 4th grade. You can see a 32-point difference between what we scored in our math proficiency for our 3rd graders and what the state average was. And you can see the state doesn't average above 50 on anything in math. okay? And in most cases, the averages are actually below 40 or below 30% proficiency. And so, and this has been remarked at the State Board of Education meetings where they've recognized that math is definitely an area of struggle, and that is definitely reflected in these MCAP scores. But, you know, with that in mind, we are still performing well above what the state is in almost every area. And then similarly, here are our rankings with regards to each one of those areas. So Math 3, Math 4, we were first. You can see we're second in a couple of cases. It really isn't until we get down into the high school level, particularly Algebra 2 and Algebra and Geometry, where we seem to struggle a little bit. But even then, some context is really important. So Montgomery and Baltimore County both, because students can take Algebra 1, Geometry, or Algebra 2 as their sort of math and graduation requirement. Those systems, and not just their systems, other systems sometimes play who are the strongest kids to go in here. And so, for instance, Baltimore County has a accelerated geometry program. So they have all of their kids who are in this program take their geometry take the MCAP geometry assessment. So it's a little harder to do apples to apples, particularly at the high school level. But 3 through 8, I think you can definitely make direct comparison without losing much in the translation. Lastly, I just wanted to give you an idea too for our kids and their growing. Okay, so what I've done here is I've actually broken down and looked at what the kids scored in their third grade, and then what they scored in fourth grade. And then I looked at the percentage of those students who improved. So important to keep in mind that if everything is normal, like we do exactly what we're supposed to do, the kids, well, not exactly what we're supposed to do, but if we just keep normal, the kids should stay at about the same thing. A kid who got 750 last year should get 750 this year, right? The other thing to keep in mind is that as students go up, growth becomes more difficult, right? Generally, when we see our growth, it's in our kids who scored 730, 740 in the prior year and are trying to bump up to that 750, and we see that. And so when I see instances of almost 30% of our students demonstrating this positive growth, we're not only from grade to grade like helping them to become good fourth graders, we're actually bringing them above where they might have normally have been. It's one of the powers of standardized testing. It gives us that ability to see if we're having an effect beyond what would be expected. And this is for math, and it's a very similar trend, very positive across the board, and same sort of principles apply. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. I said I would keep it short, but I'm happy to address any questions or any other requests that you would like me to take a look at.
I just want to share a little bit more about the assessments at the high school level when we look at that data. Dr. Hamill mentioned every school district certainly has the privilege and the right to assess the students that they want to assess in certain areas. So all of our students are going to assess in Algebra 1, for example, but it doesn't necessarily follow the same for the other students. We also have to offer students at the high school a reassessment opportunity. Some school districts, we are choosing in Worcester County Public Schools for all of our students to take the state assessment again. Other school districts are having their students take the SAT, which all of our students do, and that is their reassessment opportunity. So when we look at our assessment scores, even in English 10, some school districts are only assessing first-time test takers. And so what you could probably expect is that when a student isn't successful on a test, we certainly remediate them, we work with them, but when we look at the percentages of retesters and how successful they are, there's not a great amount of success. But the way we look at it is that if one more kid is successful, that's a success for us. And other school districts at the high school level are not doing that. They are not retesting their students. If you're interested in digging more into that, Dr. Hamill and I are both, even though he is an ELA person, he is a very analytical mind, and we enjoy each other's mathematical conversations very often. But if you're interested in looking at any of that, it's fascinating to look, and I'll pick a random county, I'm going to make up a number, but a county like Montgomery County tests 300 kids, for example. So if you know anything about the size, and I'm making that number up, but it's very, when you look at the data, it looks like that. So when he's explaining to you in geometry how things might work in a certain county, it really isn't comparing apples to apples at all. So, I think that's important to point out at the high school level too. In English 10, we see the same kind of pattern. I was having a little previous discussion with one of our board members, so she had asked me to mention a couple of things, and I don't want to be remiss in mentioning them. These assessments are not created for students to get 100%. Much like other assessments, and I'll use high school because I'm a high school principal, on an AP exam, a 50 to 58% is a 5 on an AP exam, which is the highest score you can get. So when we look at these standards and how we're assessing them, it's never the expectation that a student is going to get 100% and that a 90% is an A. That is not how these assessments are created. You are very wrong if you are looking at the assessments and thinking that that's how the scores work. So we're very open to having more conversations about that. And Dr. Hamill also briefly alluded to the state board having some conversation. The state superintendent also has acknowledged some questions about the mathematical assessment over the past couple years. And we have, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but our iReady assessments, which is our assessment, not that kids see on a one-time, these assessments that we're talking about is a one-time thing. Our kids sit down, they take this assessment, that's it. But our students who are taking the iReady assessment, which is multiple times throughout the school year, we are not seeing this performance level. And so we definitely acknowledge that there's something going on with that state assessment, specifically in math.
Yeah, I mean, since you mentioned iReady, if you can take a look here. So basically, this is how our students. Oh, yep, I can do that. Hold on. English majors are the best. All right. English teachers, I should say, right? Okay, so you can see here, this is our performance in iReady, and I want you to pay attention particularly to that 18-19 period, because that is that pre-COVID group of students. So the green bars are essentially saying early on or mid-above grade level, so where we want them to be, right? And you can see then our progress from 21 to 23. Yes, we had a little bit of a shrinking of that green area in 21, 22, but 22, 23, we're essentially back to where we were pre-COVID. Okay, and that is huge, and that is not a common story among school districts anywhere. And if you take a look also, let's see here. Okay, so this was the national norm in 18-19. Okay, so they were at about 57% at or above. We were somewhere in the range of 62% last year. Okay, so we're definitely outperforming the nation. I think somebody had mentioned that earlier today, and there is evidence that is in fact the case.
Yes, just to tag on to that a bit about the math, our math scores prior to the new assessment were close to our reading scores. So if you look back on our PARC assessments or our MCAP prior to COVID and them switching to the new assessment, our students in third grade were performing very high on that, just like they were in reading. And now you can see that the scale scores have dropped a bit, but our internal assessments, iReady, other classroom assessments, in reading, we also have our pulse on how our kids are going to do haven't changed. And it's just interesting that in reading and math, in iReady, we've stayed the same, but in math, we've seen a dip, as the whole state has, in the scores. So again, I know we don't want to in any way belabor this point, but I know the state is looking at all the superintendents, and again, I don't want to speak for Mr. Taylor, but I know I hear it when he comes back from superintendent meetings, are concerned about the drop in math scores and really how to explain it to the people in their communities, because they're not seeing the drops that in their internal assessments either. So not saying there's something wrong with the math assessment. It could be the way we're scoring it. It could be the way it's been normed. We don't know. But it's not matching what we do internally in our schools.
Before the board, I'm sure we'll have some questions. I want to, usually Dr. Andes explains the historic value of whatever we're talking about.
Because I'm really old.
Yeah, yes. But I want to say this publicly so that you understand. Worcester County Public Schools for a number of years now has done well, whether it be in PARC or MCAP. And this turn for the better started under Dr. Andy's leadership. He set the motion for this school system several years ago, because at the time I was a principal, and he put strategies in place through his team for us to be successful. He really deserves the credit for the beginning of the success of Worcester County Public Schools on PARCC, MCAP, whatever testing program we had. Now, the challenge for me as a superintendent coming behind Dr. Andes is to maintain that level. And what my team has done and what they continue to do, when I say team, 14 high school principals, testing coordinators, under the leadership of the two ladies and the gentleman sitting in front of you, have made the adjustments and the strategies that we need to be successful today, and the teaching strategies. But we have been very fortunate in Worcester, whether you agree in the testing program or not, because we have some questions. We have been very successful because of what the bar was laid many years ago under Dr. Andes. And we've continued to carry that. As a matter of fact, every year we get ready for testing, I say a few words to Dr. Andes. I said, "You've put me in this place, don't let me fall." We've been very, very successful. And then our teachers, finally, our teachers in these content areas have worked their tails off, not to teach to the test, but to prepare our kids to be successful. So it started years ago, and it's continued right down to the folks in the classroom. And we are very, very fortunate here in Worcester County. As Ms. Schwartz just mentioned to you, I've had 6 superintendents speak to me via in person or call me and say, "Lou, I want to come down and pick your team or your brain on what you're doing, because you guys have hit it, and we are struggling to hit where you are." So we take a great deal of pride in Worcester County, going back many years ago under that gentleman's leadership to where we are today, and keep making progress along the way. So I just want the community to understand, this year, when I get the results back, I take a deep sigh of relief that we are where we are. But it's not easy. It's a tremendous amount of work by the people that I just mentioned. But I want to publicly thank our former superintendent, who's now a board member, for setting the bar for all of us to continue to climb as we move our kids. And the most important thing here, move our kids to success in the Maryland testing program. No matter what you think of that, but it's the bar that we have to follow. And I wanted to also thank our teachers who continuously sharpen their instructional skills to make sure that they are teaching the kids the skills that they need to be successful.
Dr. Andes, would you like to follow that up?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and credit deserved goes to everyone in schools who work hard each and every day. Special shout out to our testing coordinators at each of our buildings, and of course, Dr. Hamill and his entire team. Just a quick question. When you look at when you break the scores down and look at subgroups of scores, what does that information tell you about subgroups like ELL students, special education students, students who are eligible for free or reduced meals? When you look at those subgroups, what trends are you seeing?
We are similar to essentially every other assessment or district out there, in that there are gaps between some groups of students. Particularly in our case, it is special education. It is free and reduced meals, students from poverty, and then also our minority students. Okay, those are the 3 groups, and we've spent a lot of time over the past 2 years, 3 years. I mean, we had working on it before, but we've really tried to drill down and focus, and it's yielded some results. If we look at last year's data and this year's data, our SPED students, I think it was in 4th grade, increased their overall proficiency by 20%. It's a huge growth. Still lots and lots. I mean, they have a lot to go. There's a lot of room to grow there, but there's a suggestion looking at the data, and this is very true almost across all of our demographic groups, that yes, they're performing less than our white groups or our non-farms groups or non-SPED groups, but they are improving based upon their prior year. And as long as that improvement continues, that gap will close.
Sure. That's great.
Thank you.
Any other board members?
We were having a conversation earlier, and I thought it would be helpful for the public to hear, anyone who's listening, as to how these tests are run. We were talking back in the day when we went to school, you got a piece of paper and a pencil, you had the bubble letters, you could go back. They always taught you, if you don't know the answer, go through as much as you can, then you go back when you have time and fill in the rest of the answers when you have challenging ones. But from what we had discussed, it's changed drastically. And I think that would be good to hear how that's changed.
Well, this happens to be one of my favorite topics, so thank you for asking.
All right.
I know. No, I'm serious. I'm not kidding here, right? Right now, the assessments are all on, first of all, they're all digital, okay? And in the cases of ELA, there's a norm referencing that occurs, and essentially what MSD tries to do is ensure, and this is, SAT does this, AP does this is a very, very common practice, is they try to they get all 200,000 students, they look at their scores, and they figure out where that median was. And that generally becomes that middle point. And then from there, they fan out with standard deviations in order to identify the other groups of students. So when we're talking about this, the ELA test in particular, the students generally, it's 4 70-minute sessions. They don't take them all on one day. We actually mandate that they only take one per day because that is a lot of testing, especially for our littles in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And so they have these long sessions, and honestly, when you get into the months of April and May, I mean, there's a lot of testing going on, because in addition to ELA and math, 5th graders and 8th graders have a science assessment, and then high schoolers, which I'm actually going to talk about here in a minute in my next presentation, have end of course assessments that are being sort of added on as well. So there's they spend a lot of time assessing, particularly for the state and with those devices and such. Now, when you look at like math is a little different, especially in 3 through 8. It's computer adaptive. And what the state has done is they've taken the test, and it's 4 sessions again, but each session is sort of its own little bucket. And so the student answers as many questions as they can in the 40-minute session. If they don't finish, they can continue on in that session, but ultimately they only have 160 minutes total to complete, right? And the score ultimately gets calculated by how well they've answered the questions, how many consistently correct, and ultimately they're asked a little harder, they're asked a little easier until it's able to focus down into what they think their scaled score is. Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I guess just to go off of that too, from what we were discussing, it's a lot different too, where
oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean there is, especially with the computer adaptive, so technically you actually can go back, but it doesn't actually have any effect on your score.
Oh, okay.
So generally we say to the students, just go forward, get as much done as you can. We don't want students going through and answering randomly because that especially in the math side of things, can drastically influence the score one way or another. I mean, it's kind of an unpredictable situation at that point.
And I will say, I'm just going to add on for math. It's interesting that when I was out and about in schools, as classrooms were testing, some of the teachers were concerned with time management for kids, because there were some kids that were on their 4th day of math still working on day 2. And so for a younger student, you really have to teach them that you have to kind of do your best and move on, and you really don't want to get behind in days, because we know that that's going to greatly impact your score. So Tom was correct, kind of not belabor it, move forward. But I know that's something that the state is looking at, that could be one of the impacts of the lower scores in math, is that kids just aren't finishing because they have that freedom. In reading, they have to do day 1 work and day 1 and move on.
And is it fair to say that it's hard to compare because we were talking that essentially everyone's test is different, where if you score right at one question, it's going to give you a harder question next time, or if you score so many wrong, then it's going to lower you into a different bracket. So how can you honestly say that we are comparing, county to county or grade levels or anything like that, if essentially every child is potentially getting a different test.
Okay, I just came up with this analogy on my head, so I hope it works out. But if a student answers a question, and let's say they get a drop of red dye when they answer that question, and they answer another one, they get it right, they get another drop of red dye. But then the next one they answer, they get a drop of blue dye, right? When you mix all that together, that student's going to end up sort of reddish purple, right? And that's, I think, sort of how that works, is that, and there are very, very smart people at the the Maryland Board of Ed, psychometricians, who, I know, the good old psychometricians, do a lot of statistical work to ensure that, that the comparison is apples to apples when you're looking student to student. And I would strongly encourage, if you have an opportunity, the Mid-Atlantic Assessment Group is a conference. It happens in November. It's usually at the Fontainebleau. I'm not sure what the Fontainebleau is called now. But it's a 3-day, and it's a state basically coming in and saying, here's all this testing stuff. And there was a presenter last year who was like the lead psychometrician from the state. It was fascinating to actually see how they go through identifying norms and percentiles and that sort of thing. It was really, really informative. Yeah.
And I think even though they are getting ranked and the questions are changing, and they're sort of getting different questions, they're all from the same question bank. So throughout the state, the same student is going to answer that level of difficulty question who is scoring at that level in the same way. So it is all from the same bank of questions. So in that sense, you can absolutely compare them. And I think going back to when we talked about being able to go back, but you can change your answer, but it doesn't change your score, is a significant departure from historically how we have all taken assessments. Because we could go back, we would mark number 2, we would be like, yeah, I think it's 7. I pick math because I'm a math person. Then we go on and we're like, we mark that because we need to come back to it. Like once we've marked 7, like that's it. You can go back to it and you can change your answer, but it's going to have no effect on you moving forward. And certainly that adds in, like we were talking about some testing strategies when we were taking tests on paper and pencil, and now we're having to continue to add to our toolkit. And when the assessment changed again this past year, so that it was, the computer generated sort of changing where you were, we once again had to shift roles with our kids and say, okay, now this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, which certainly adds a nuance, because again, at the end of the day, we're trying to assess what our kids know and what they don't know. And when you start throwing all kinds of flavors in, sometimes it gets in the way of like what you originally baked the cake for and what you're really trying to see.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to add on a little bit to what Dr. Hamill was saying to you, Mrs. Addis. It's also important to know that most norm reference tests, whether they're computer adaptive, have different forms. So the 3 of us could be doing the CTBS, which we used to do in our system in 2nd grade, and if we were sitting in rows, we wouldn't have the same form of the assessment, but they norm them so that you get accurate results. I apologize.
Thank you.
Dr. Hamill, this is something to celebrate. And
yes.
Like Mr. Taylor said, first of all, hats off to you, your team, the testing coordinators, the teachers. But it's always tough to have a repeat performance, and that's what we have to do next year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's no pressure.
Yes. Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah. If we go from 80 to 75, people are gonna be like, "What happened?" So yeah, I know.
I'll stay here. Our next presentation is a grading and final exam policy revision, and I'll invite Ms. Diane Stoltz, who is here today, also who has excellent historical knowledge, who Tom and I learn from every day she's here. So we'll bring her up to share in this presentation.
So to give you a little bit of background, the state of Maryland is, last year they field tested this. They've mandated that all students in high school biology and government must take a state-developed final exam, and that final exam must count for 20% of the student's final grade. Now, they were originally going to do this with math and ELA too, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen now, fingers crossed. And so as a result of this change, we have had to suggest some changes to policy, just minor revisions to account for those two specific instances, and also to account for the way that we've handled incompletes in the past. So I can direct you to 2B08. And the change is made in section 4, subsection B. We've added another bullet there where basically it's the exceptions and exemptions to taking a final exam and a final exam counting for 10%. In this case, it's just an indication that for biology and government high school courses, the final exam will count for 20% of the student's final grade.
Who came up with this wonderful idea?
State of Maryland, ma'am.
Well, and we'll talk about at the end, something that may be more of a positive flavor of it.
Yeah. And then also, a little later on, I think, what are we in there? Students, okay, so I had mentioned that we have to also think about our incomplete policy. So students are required to take these assessments as part of their graduation. They don't have to pass them, they just have to take them, okay? So but we are kind of in a situation if a student is absent. So think about this, for instance. We have, I think, from the middle of December till January 19th to get our students to take these assessments. So obviously it's an end of course assessment. We want our students to wait as long as possible to get as much content as possible before they take this end of course assessment that's going to count for 20% of their grade. So we can foresee a situation where a student is absent perhaps the entire week, like we're giving it the week of January 19th, and they're absent that entire week and they don't have an opportunity and they miss the makeups for whatever, it happens. What do we do with that student's grade? And giving them a 0 doesn't really seem to fit the bill because that's not really what their grade is, but at the same time, the state's asked us to make sure it's 20% of their final grade. The state, though, has given us latitude to do or to apply our incomplete policy. Generally in the past, and in most cases, our incomplete policy is 5 days, and then the student has to turn in whatever work. We're going to be creating a new code in Power School that basically it's the IEC code, and that is essentially going to freeze the grade. There won't be no letter, there'll be no points awarded or anything until the student has an opportunity to take that assessment. So that's what the change in the policy is basically arguing for or offering. Right? And then 2B10. So this is the final examination policy itself. And so obviously some revisions had to be made there. In section B, the final exam grade shall be averaged as part of the final course grade and shall count as 10% of the final course grade except, and here comes the change, for the classes of biology and government where the final exam will count for 20% of the final grade. I also added some language where these are the only final exams our students will take that are not developed locally. And our policy had indicated that they were all developed locally. So I've added the exception in there so that it's clear that that is not the case here. And then also we had policy had the final exam as no longer than 2 hours. This test is for 40-minute sessions, and so it's 160 minutes, so it's more than 2 hours, and so we needed to add a little bit of language there to accommodate for that as well.
So to go back to, I know Mrs. McComas was asking some questions during this. One of the things that's important to point out is if you may remember back, these assessments used to be part of the graduation requirement as like a pass-fail. So in some ways, I think we're making some progress in changing from it being a pass-fail to you pass the assessment or you don't pass the assessment. Now, certainly there was like another bridge to graduation that you could complete a bridge project back in those days. But this is certainly I think some steps in the right direction. Do we have it all the way right? That's probably way above my pay grade to say, but I do think it steps in the right direction because it's combining this score with a reflection of what kids have shown every day in the classroom that they know, versus sitting down one day and it being a pass-fail. I mean, we all know, like, my mom just sent us to school sick, right? Like, this was before COVID. So Annette could have been in there with 102-degree fever. It was probably because I wanted to go to school because I had a sport to play that day. It probably wasn't my mom. But I could be in there with 102-degree fever taking a government assessment and just do absolutely horrible, and it'd be on a one-day basis. So I do think that this is a step in the right direction of a clearer picture of what a student knows. We have to make these changes. This is required for us to submit this policy by September 30th, I believe. October 1st, so it means September 30th. We always have to be a little bit early to the state. So it was important that we got this in front of you. We've been working with our coordinators. We've been working with the state. And all fingers crossed to hope that this actually gets across the finish line at the end of the semester. We get those scores back, because it is September 19th and you just got a report on our scores from last May. So keep in mind that we are very hopeful around the promise from MSDE that we will have these scores turned around in about 2 weeks. In 9 school days is the promise. We just presented you with May data today, though. So we are very hopeful that these scores come through, and our policy will be hopefully passed by you today, so that everything is in line for us from a policy standpoint around our final grade examination policy and how our final grades are calculated.
Board, do we have any questions for Dr. Wallace, Dr. Hammond?
What brilliant committee came up with this?
I can't comment as to their level of intelligence, but I do know that some of the impetus for this did come from some of the larger districts who were concerned that the students, apparently graduation wasn't enough skin in the game, and so by tying it directly to the course that is a graduation requirement, it would motivate the students to take the test more seriously.
20%?
20%. Yeah.
I'm an old biology teacher. That is nuts. I'm sorry. Just an opinion.
Okay.
I will share with the board, some of you who may have been teachers or have experience in this, the importance of us getting this right in policy, because our students participate, and I'll just pick athletics off the top of my head, in athletics, and so we needed to create something, and the three of us really put our minds together with our 2 coordinators on this having the least amount of impact on a student if they were having a bad day on the assessment, for example. And what happens if they're absent on the assessment? We don't want them to not be able to play their next sport because they now only have 3 grades instead of 4 to qualify and count their GPA. I had some conversation with Dr. Apt. So we really have taken a full circle balcony perspective in on this to make sure that as we made these changes we're required to make, they were impacting our students in the best possible way, because there could be significant, if we didn't get this end of course incomplete thing straight, there could be significant impacts in a negative way on a student who simply was ill on the day of the assessment and wasn't there. So yes. So the superintendent, do you have another question?
No, I was just going to say, Ms. McCombs, I concur with your thoughts, but I mean, the test is weighted. So that is one, unless somebody gets 100% on it, at least there's a fighting chance to do okay.
Yeah.
But if anyone doesn't have any other questions, I need to call for a motion to approve the revised grading plan and final exam policy.
Yeah, the superintendent would recommend your approval of the revised policy 2B8 and 2B10.
Motion by Mr. Smack. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Just a point of clarification so our community understands, we have to do this because the Maryland State Board of Education passed a regulation that compels us to do it.
Yes.
And I reluctantly voted in favor of the motion because we have to come in compliance with the state regulation. I agree with my colleague, Ms. McComas, that this is absurd. It's absolutely absurd that the state is telling us how much of a final exam counts for our students in Worcester County. Our Board of Education should be making that decision, not the State Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andes. Okay. Moving forward, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess, Dr. Andes. And I'll let Ms. Shorts do the blueprint first, and then we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrante. I will do a very brief blueprint update so that you can have a restroom break. That's important. So just a few things. AIB, the Accountability Implementation Board, has been meeting throughout the summer. If you're ever interested in looking at their videos, they're available through the Maryland General Assembly. There's always links to the taped 3-hour meetings, so if you have some time and want to skim through them. Throughout the summer, they've updated the blueprint manual for the AIB and have changed some information in that, and they're getting ready to republish that by the beginning of October. As far as the implementation plan that AIB and MSDE works on for the school systems to complete, which is due in March of every year, that is still not complete. Last year it didn't get released until December, but we're hopeful this year it will be released by the by the end of October, beginning of November. So we're hopeful we'll get it about a month early, and looking forward to seeing that. We've had numerous reports that have been due in throughout this month. We had a tutoring report that was due on September 1st, and a 9th grade tracker report that was also due September 1st, and that was only due to MSDE, but it was through the blueprint that we do those reports. And more information will be shared with you next month, but something called expert review teams is included in the legislation around the blueprint. These are teams of people who are employed by MSDE. They're educators and former principals, former superintendents, educators who have been trained and done pilot work in schools, but we will have expert review teams visiting Worcester County this year, and the list of schools will be given to Mr. Taylor after their September 21st meeting. The AIB will look at recommendations from MSDE around which schools will be visited. Typically, the law says 10% of every school of all the schools will be visited every year, so that by 2031 all schools will be visited by expert review teams. And again, this is part of the law. So we'll let you know which ones of our schools will be identified, and we'll go a little deeper into what those visits entail at hopefully our October board meeting. But that concludes, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Ms. Shorts?
I'm just curious, do we have a timeline in place as to when the board will be presented with I guess more or less information about how we're going to move forward with the funding of the blueprint?
I'm not sure I'm the best, yeah.
Yes and no, Kate.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
Okay.
Exactly. We have some ideas. Ms. Shorts and the pillars of each group can give us some
scenarios,
best guess estimates, but it is up and down so much. I hear one week it's going to be this time, and then the next thing I heard, that's on delay. So as we know it, yes.
Okay.
We're not going to keep anything back from you all. When we find out for sure things, we will let you know.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish I had a more concrete answer for you, but I don't even know.
Any other questions from Ms. Shorts? Ms. Shorts, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And this
it.
concludes curriculum and instruction. So back to
Wonderful,
you,
thank
Mr. Ferrante.
Okay, right now we'll take a brief 5-minute recess, and then we'll be back to finish up our meeting. Thank you. Okay, now we are rejoined and back from our recess, and I'm going to move on to administrative operations for Dr. App. Dr. App?
Thank you, Mr. Ferrante. In front of you, you have the board exhibit for this month. Resignations: Danielle Dawson, Educational Assistant, Cedar Chapel Special School; Madison Perella, School Nurse, Cedar Chapel Special School; Nevaeh Rejo, Educational Assistant, Cedar Chapel Special School; Hillary Young, Educational Assistant, Shall Elementary School. Our new hires: Justin Bloomer, Educational Assistant, Shall Elementary School; Jessica Dick, Title I Educational Special Education Teacher, Pocomoke Elementary School and Snow Hill Elementary School; Kate Gosser, School Nurse, Cedar Chapel Special School; Jennifer Lemansky, Secretary, Grade 6, 12-month, Central Office; Judah Matlock, Educational Assistant, Snow Hill Middle School; Matthew McGill, Health Teacher Split, Snow Hill Middle School, Pocomoke Middle School; Jessica Murray, Educational Assistant, Buckingham Elementary School; Eva Morano Rodriguez, Educational Assistant, Buckingham Elementary School; Armadina Salinas, Secretary, Grade 6, 12-month Bookkeeper, Pocomoke Elementary School; Stephen Sauer, Electrician, Central Office; Tamara Sumter, Pupil Personnel Worker, Grant Funded, Central Office; Rebecca Trivet, Educational Assistant, Cedar Chapel Special School; Anita Wool, Educational Assistant, Shall Elementary School. Promotions: Mary Chamberlain, Secretary, Grade 5, 10-month, Snow Hill Middle School; Callan Grant, Social Worker, Grant Funded, Pocomoke Elementary School; and Charity Shockley, Secretary, Grade 4, 10-month, Snow Hill Middle School. The superintendent recommends the approval of the personnel exhibit as presented.
Thank you, Dr. App. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the personnel exhibit as presented? A motion by Ms. McComas. And a second by Ms. Natus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Go back to you, Dr. App.
Thank you. Our next subject is an informational item. We are bringing forth to the board at our September meeting our negotiating teams for the board. For the Worcester County Teachers Association, the board side, it will be myself as chief negotiator, Vince Tolbert, Annette Wallace, Denise Shorts, Dr. Michael Brown, and Matthew Reckert. The board team negotiating with the Worcester County Educational Support Personnel Association. Again, myself as chief negotiator, Vince Tolbert, Annette Wallace, Denise Shorts, Otis Collins, Sam Slacum, and Chris Welsh. Those negotiations per contract are scheduled to kick off in November.
Just FYI, to follow up on Dr. App, my plan is, so that you can be thinking about this, is to start talking with you to give me some parameters on salary and things of that next month, because we're going to have to start down that road a little bit earlier this year, what you would like to see us offer our teachers and our support staff. So be thinking about that as we move forward.
Thank you.
Our next subject is for the board's consideration, a agreement, Time to Care Act Insurance Collaborative Memorandum of Agreement between Worcester County Public Schools and the Maryland Association of Boards of Education. On board docs, you had a couple attachments. One was this flyer, looks like this, and a copy of the agreement is on board docs as well. Just to give you a little background, this is a legislative mandate that was enacted back in April of 2022 and amended last May of 2023. And beginning January 1st, 2026, all organizations employing at least one person in Maryland must provide up to 12 weeks of job-protected paid leave to care for themselves or certain family members who meet specific eligibilities. Employers have three options to choose from. They can default into a state system, they can administer their own program, or they can join a collaborative a collective or go in with a private insurer. Under the collaborative that I'm asking you to consider today, the school systems and counties will be able to secure coverage through the MABE-MACO collaborative, which allows each member to meet the mandates while potentially reducing our cost and simplifying the administrative requirements, meaning that we will not have to administer the program in-house. At my meeting last week with Eastern Shore HR folks, all of the Eastern Shore counties had indicated that they are joining the collaborative, as well as Stacy Norton from the county government had presented this, I believe, this morning to the county government, and they are, I don't know what their vote was, but the county government was also most likely going to join this collaborative. So with that, I'd like to, it's recommended that the Worcester County Public Schools choose option 3 and join the MABE-MACO Time to Care Collaborative. The collaborative will handle all the administrative functions and save us Worcester County Public School time and money. And the recommendation, the superintendent recommends the approval of the Time to Care Act Insurance Collaborative Agreement between Worcester County Public Schools and MABE.
Thank you, Dr. App. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the Time to Care Act Insurance Collaborative Agreement between WCPS and MABE? And a motion by Mr. Smack. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Andes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Wallace for the safety update.
Good afternoon again. Our safety committee met on September 12th, and just a few updates for you. Our Carrie Steers, under her leadership, our communications subcommittee met, and she once again shared out all of the information about I Love You Guys that was shared out in paper form that went home in backpacks on the first day, as well as continuing to share out that information through our new school messenger system. And we also, one of the things that was brought up during the communication portion was the Maryland Center for School Safety tip line and the See Something, Say Something. So we discussed as a group that we'll continue to push that information out to our parents and our students. The signs are posted around our schools, but making sure that our parents and community members know as well. So we'll be continuing to push that out on our social media channels, as well as the communication channels through our new school messenger system, Aptgy. So those things will be continually coming out to parents, just as reminders of, like, if you see something, here's the correct format and how we want you to submit that through the Maryland Center for School Safety. And the weapons detection system also presented to the entire group, had some dialogue around the visit to another school system, and collectively decided to have some conversations with some different contractors who could potentially do a needs assessment for us around a weapons detection system. So we had a lot of really good dialogue. We are planning to meet quarterly. However, if things come up in the in-between, if more information surfaces, we will absolutely reconvene the group. But right now, our plan as a group is to meet quarterly. So those are our next steps.
Any questions for Dr. Wallace? Okay, thank you very much. Now for physical operations, I turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Tolbert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ferrante. First up, we have Mr. Joe Price, our facilities planner, with Stephen Decatur Middle School requisition number 21. Mr. Price.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Price.
Requisition 21 for the Decatur Middle project includes closeout payments to Crystal Steel, J&G Acoustical for general trades, Cole Roofing, and J&G Acoustical again for drywall and ceilings. With your approval of this requisition, we will have closed out 15 of our 24 Decatur Middle contractors. And the superintendent recommends approval of requisition 21.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Can I have a motion and a second for Stephen Decatur Middle Addition School construction requisition number 21 as presented?
So moved.
A motion by Dr. Andes and a second by Ms. McComas. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Price.
Next up is our FY25 CIP. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Each October, we're required to submit a capital improvement program to the Interagency Commission on School Construction at the state. Our FY25 CIP includes a request for construction funding for the Snow Hill Middle School Cedar Chapel Special School roof project, and a request for design funding for the Pocomoke Elementary roof replacement project. The CIP also includes timelines and estimated costs for future projects, including those roof projects, plus a roof project at Worcester Tech, and a renovation addition or replacement school project at Snow Hill Elementary School. The CIP also provides number and location of portable classrooms and shows that since 2017, we have reduced our portable classrooms from 52 to 11, and enrollment projections through 2032. Yes. That's great. Superintendent recommends board approval of the FY25 CIP and authorization to forward it to the state.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the FY 2025 Capital Improvement Program and authorization to forward the CIP to the Interagency Commission on School Construction as presented? Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Andes. Second by Mr. Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Price. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Price. My last item, Mr. Ferrante, is the monthly financial report for the month of August, showing non-salary expenditures of $1,459,665.59. The superintendent recommends approval of the financial report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the August 31st, 2023 monthly financial report as presented?
So moved, Bill Gordy.
Motion by Mr. Gordy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smack. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Tolbert.
Ferrante.
Okay, and now I'd like to open the floor up to my fellow board members in the event that you have any comments.
After listening to everyone's disappointment with the vote that we had to make on the policy changes, the final examinations and the grading policy, I am going to make a motion that we write a letter to the State Board of Education that we vehemently oppose this policy change and that we want to maintain local control. Even though we've all passed the policy, we passed it not because we agree with it, but because the state forced our hand. And I believe that we should make that known to the state, at least put it on record.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to write a letter to the State Board, discussing our opposition to them forcing our hand for the requirement for testing. Do I have on the exam policy? Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Dr. Andes. Any discussion?
Who will construct the letter? I will work with Carrie and Dr. Wallace.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show the vote was unanimous. Do you have any other board comments?
I just wanted to say a couple words too. Since our August meeting, I have been reviewing the School Library Media Center Manual and Procedural Handbook due to the amount of questions that and concerns that I've received from constituents who feel they don't have a voice with addressing concerns about books in circulation in our public school libraries. Within that manual, under section 5.4, which is the School Library Media Procedure for Challenge Materials, definitions are provided to clearly define vague wording in the procedure, and the definition in question is complainant. The current definition states a parent or guardian, employee, or student in Worcester County Public Schools who shares a concern about a specific library material. Within the current definition of complainant, we are leaving out the largest group in our county who needs to have a voice, and that would be the stakeholders of Worcester County. I'm bringing this issue up because at next month's meeting, I would like to have a discussion with my fellow board members with this issue, and will ask for a vote from my fellow board members to vote to review this policy and revise the definition of complainant to include stakeholders or taxpayers in the definition. I'm also going to ask that within the school level review outline section, school employees will also review the Maryland Code Criminal Law, which is 11-103 and 11-203, which would be indecency and obscenity, subtitle 2, obscene matter, and it has to do with the sale or display of obscene item to minor or the adult sexual display exhibition to minors. If a challenged material falls within the purview of these laws, we must hold them to the highest regard. And for me, moving forward, the issue is a twofold issue: whether materials in Worcester County Public Schools offers academic relevance, and it's following the federal and state laws to restrict sexually explicit content to minors. I look forward to having a discussion with all of you, whether you want to have it now or next meeting, but that's what I'm planning on doing with October.
Since you brought up the requirement of the law, I would recommend that our counselor look into that and have those answers at our next board meeting.
That would be great. Thank you.
If I just want
Dr.
to
Andes?
comment quickly, I know the hour is late. I want to thank everyone in the school system for getting us off to a great school year. Many people have been thanked today, but obviously our custodial staffs have been thanked, our building level leadership has been thanked, our teachers have been thanked. We've had a great start to the school year, and a particular shout out to our bus contractors. It's not easy driving a yellow stretch limousine. It is not easy. And especially when you're driving pre-K and K kiddos who know they live in a house and it's somewhere down the road, but they may not know exactly what the house looks like or the address, or they may not even know their name. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone in the school system who has worked so tirelessly and so hard to make this a very successful start to this school year. And a special shout out to our bus contractors. And I know all of our bus contractors do a great job, but my heart goes out and I commend the people who drive the pre-K, K, and elementary school kids. They just do a tremendous job. So I thank you for driving those stretch yellow limousines and getting our students to and from school safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andes. Any other comments from any other board members? Okay, seeing none, I'll move forward and I'll turn it over to Mr. Taylor to make the following announcements.
I have just one announcement today. Just a reminder that on October the 11th, well, two announcements. Will be a half a day for kids that day, October the 11th again, because we will be having a professional day, half a day that day. It's a correction. It says in your packet, it says a whole day, but it's a half a day. School's closed, not the full day.
Okay.
And also, just as a reminder to our public, a shout out to Dr. Jamie Ridgely, who is the finalist in the State Teacher of the Year program. And we will be attending, at least part of us will be attending a banquet to honor Jamie and all the Teachers of the Year in the state of Maryland on that evening. And I want to thank Carrie Steers, who leads the program here in Worcester County, and she has a finalist. Thank you, Carrie. So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
I had one other question too. As far as an upcoming date, have we decided on a meeting date with the commissioners?
Not yet. I'm going to be reaching again out to Mr. Bertino, and I had a conversation, and I'm going to reach back out to him to find out when he'd like to get together so our boards can meet. But there has been no date set yet. And I have not. I know that Mr. Bertino said that he would like to host this meeting. So after I speak with him this week, I'll make sure I get an email out to everybody and we'll set a date.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next regular Worcester County Board of Education meeting will be held on October 17th, Tuesday, in the Sarah D. Thompson Board Meeting Room, Worcester County Board of Education Central Office, located at 6270 Worcester Highway in Newark, Maryland. The open session will begin at 11 a.m. to immediately consider voting to convene in closed session under provisions of Article 3-305B of the Annotated Code of Maryland. The board will reconvene in the open session at 12:30, and the boarding information will be posted on the website at www.worcesterk12.org, located under board meeting/board docs. And if there's nothing else, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Smack.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
We are officially adjourned.